Hashim Bahadatyar, international affairs expert, is now joining us. Thank you so much for your time. How do you view this development in the context of the Taliban coming out and saying that this clearly is a violation of the Doha agreement between the US and Taliban essentially? How do you think this is going to play out in days and weeks to come, given that I would expect the Taliban to retaliate now?
Three important points. Point number one, in Doha, the Taliban clearly deceived United States and international community. Number two, that the Taliban became untrustworthy when it comes to the international relations. It did not fulfill the regulations, the rules, and the guarantees in international relations, and that badly affect the international community to talk with the Taliban over recognition of the Taliban. So it brought the Taliban back when it comes to the recognition of the Taliban, the international community recognition of the Taliban. Number three, the good news is that Joe Biden was trying to sideline Afghanistan with the way that he withdrew his forces from Afghanistan. But now Afghanistan became again an international community's agenda. It became again a breaking news in international media. So that will consider, the international community needs to consider thinking about Afghanistan, because now al-qaida and other jihadist organizations, they have a safe havens in Afghanistan. They can openly have centers in Afghanistan, recruit fighters, and also Ayman al-Zawahiri was clearly going to the balconies from his living room and dining room, and also to the balconies and looking towards Kabul. So that means that the al-Qaeda leaders and commanders have free hands across Afghanistan, whatever they want to do, and the threats from Afghanistan to the region and the world remain the same.
You know, on the global front, what does this really do as far as US President Joseph Biden is concerned, his stature and his popularity among Americans? I mean, clearly what he said was this, that this is a man who is going after Americans, and anybody who is targeting America and Americans is not going to be spared by the US. What does this really do as far as Joe Biden's own popularity is concerned?
Well, first, when Joe Biden withdrew his forces from Afghanistan, his approval rate from 60s dropped to 40s. But when the issue of Ukraine came in, his approval rate a little bit gone up. Now, yes, Joe Biden can show to the Americans the killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri as an achievement. But this will also remind the Americans the way Joe Biden withdrew from Afghanistan, right? So it's not only a plus to Joe Biden, but also in a way a negative point to Joe Biden, because now the Americans will remember that how the translators, thousands of Afghan translators were left behind in Afghanistan, and their workers and their staff and their colleagues, they still remain in hideouts in Afghanistan. So that also has a negative consequence in public opinions of the Americans.
Okay, and the manner in which this was done, talk to us a little about it. Clearly, this had the blueprint of bin Laden, the manner in which bin Laden was killed over a decade ago, essentially. This clearly followed the same blueprint, isn't it?
Well, I hope that I have understood your question correctly, but I will just go to the answers. There's a very important point that by killing of Ayman al-Zawahiri, you cannot say that al-Qaeda was fully downgraded or eliminated, right? We saw that Osama bin Laden was killed in Abbottabad of Pakistan, but the al-Qaeda is still alive, their fighters still alive, and they moved from Pakistan to Afghanistan. And Ayman al-Zawahiri, the number 2 and now become number 1, he was still alive and he was Kabul in Afghanistan, but we don't know yet that what he was doing in Kabul. Was he recruiting more fighters from across the world and bringing them to Afghanistan, setting up the training camps for them, plotting to conduct another 9/11 types of attacks on the United States or any other member of the NATO states or in the regions? That remains a question, and that is an assignment for the United States to find out about that, and also that where did Ayman al-Zawahiri came from, how he was living in Wazir Akbar Khan of Kabul, whether the intelligence of Taliban knowing this, whether the intelligence of Pakistan knowing this, because Pakistan was clearly telling the international community that the Taliban are changed, and they are not changed. And they still had in their harbors the al-Qaeda leaders and definitely their commanders as well.